G'day everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video, we're going to be going over a bunch of AFL players who so far this year have just not lived up to their expectations, or as the title says, are underachieving players so far in the 2022 AFL season. Now with the list of players I have in today's video, I've tried to exclude the real young players, first to third year players, because they are still new to the competition, finding their feet. So the list I have is just players who have been in the system for quite a while. They've shown that they can play at a certain level, but this season they've just been unable to reach that level that they should be playing at. So if you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, that'd be much appreciated, and let's kick it off with my list of 10. First player we've got in today's video from the Sydney Swans, we've got Dane Rampe. He's just not been up to standard this season so far for the Swans. The Swans' defence has just been a really questionable one so far. It feels like the best two defenders you could say have been the McCartan brothers, Paddy and Tommy, both key defenders. And then you have the Swans' general defenders who have not been pulling their weight in the backline. Jake Lloyd, also Harry Cunningham, and yes, of course, especially Dane Rampe, who I think is the most underachieving player out of all three, has just not been good enough. He is their co-captain, he's an all-Australian caliber player, and he's been struggling to really find his groove in the backline. Still is a very competitive player, Dane Rampe, but he's just had too many goals kicked on him. He's just not disposing it very well out of defensive 50, and yeah, just for me, a very underachieving player for the Sydney Swans so far. Next player on today's list, I've got Matt Rowell from the Gold Coast Suns. Yes, it's only his third season, he's only 20 years old, but the reason why I put him on this video is just because he's a pick one. You have that very high expectation with him. He's the ball inside kind of midfielder, but so far this season, he's just been struggling to really blossom in that Gold Coast Suns midfield. He's really struggling to rack up possessions and uncontested possessions. He's always having to work extremely hard to rack up contested possessions, whilst then you've got Touk Miller and Noah Anderson, who have just been far better than Rowell this year. We saw his first game against West Coast, 33 disposals, 6 tackles, 17 kicks, 16 hand passes, and we thought finally this is the season where Rowell is going to break out. But just after that first round game, he's just been truly underachieving. He's just struggling to really rack up those statistics and just be blossomed and spread his wings and become one of the best midfielders in that Gold Coast Suns squad. So yeah, Matt Rowell's still a player who really needs to show his worth, and for me, he's an underachieving player. For my third player in today's video, I have included Devon Smith from Essendon, a player who's just really been a shell of himself so far this year. Alongside that, there's a lot of Essendon players in the squad who've just been not up to standard, but I think Devon Smith is a massive one because he's an experienced player. When he arrived at Essendon, he was a first-year Best and Fairest award, and he keeps on just seems to be in a bit of a downward spiral, and especially this year, one game he got dropped, I think against the Brisbane Lions, he had under 5 disposals. He was just really struggling to find the football. He plays that midfielder forward role, which is yes a difficult role to play, but considering last year he was somewhat decent for the club, and now this year he's just really struggling. By taking a look at his stat averages so far this year, it's just not been good enough, all below average pretty much in every category, and he's another player on my list today. For my fourth play in today's video, I've got Luke Dowhouse from the Geelong Cats. A really interesting one with Dowhouse. It just seems to be that he's struggling to really consistently be in that 22 for the Geelong Cats, starting as the medi sub for a few games, and when he's been on, just struggling to find the football as well, playing that midfielder forward kind of role. He's just been unable to execute and find the football like he usually is able to. Back in the Bulldogs, a premiership player, when he joined Geelong as well, he seemed to be a really nice fit in the Cats side, but having a look at his stat averages, again, all below average, and it's just not a really good sight to see. For a player who's, 28, 29, you should be expecting that he'd be playing better footy. The kind of experienced player, but you've got like Holmes and you've got Cooper Stephens getting games over him, so it's pretty concerning to see that for Dowhouse, and he's another player on today's video that is underachieving. Next play in today's video, I've got Lachie Whitfield from the GWS Giants. For sure, disposals and stats wise, he has been racking up the football, but still, he's not been the player that he usually is, an elite ball-using midfielder defender that can really take the game on. All-Australian caliber player as well, but so far this season, he is truly underachieved, just not using the footy well. In some instances, not being able to get it multiple times as he usually is able to. and also including that he has just not been defensively that great, sometimes caught lacking on not manning up, a handful of goals kicked on him too, and with the ball in hand, the disposal efficiency has just not been too great, under around that 75%, which is not good to see as again, an all-Australian caliber halfback who should be an elite ball user most of the time. So including that, a number of underachieving players as well in the Giants side, but Whitfield should be one of their best players, but just has not been that this year. So Lachie Whitfield, a underachieving player so far. Moving on to my next underachieving player in today's video, I've got Chad Wingard from Hawthorn. We know what Chad Wingard can bring to the table. That's game-changing kind of forward, small forward that could really change a game off his own boot. But yeah, this season he's just been under the weather, really. A very just average player, not really been a player that he should be. I've seen a lot of Hawthorn fans just not be happy with him, saying, what the hell is Wingard doing? How's he getting a game? And just watching him play, struggling to kick a goal, struggling to find a possession here or there. He has kicked 7 goals so far this season, which I don't think's too bad personally, but I think with Chad Wingard, he came to Hawthorn with a goal to be a player who was going to be truly a goal threat, but just has not really been that, I feel, so far this season, where you've got Dylan Moore and you've got Mitch Lewis, the youngsters just shining on top of Wingard. And again, Wingard should be a player that should be playing a lot better this year. So for me, Wingard, a underachieving player in 2022. For my next player in today's video, I've got Jaden Stevenson from North Melbourne. Again, an interesting one because he came over to North Melbourne with high hopes. Of course, the 2018 Rising Star winner, and geez, he had the world at his feet back in 2018. Moved over to North Melbourne, paying a pick 26, 33, and 70 to also get 𝐵𝗡𝐺𝐺𝐵 too. So I felt like probably North Melbourne side, it was a pretty good trade, but again, we just know about his off-field dramas. He's just not been a very disciplined player. He's had issues with training and whatnot, being excluded from training too, and he's been dropped as well in one game so far this year. And we all know Jaden Stevenson, he should be a far better player than he has so far been this year. He should be one of the best players in that North Melbourne side, but I don't think he's been top 10. He's only kicked 1 goal for the season. He has been playing at that high half forward role, but I think you've got to have a lot more higher expectations, or the expectations are high for Stevenson, but has just not met it so far this year. And of course, one of the main factors in why he has been underachieving this year is because North Melbourne, they have been a very poor team, and including that, Zurhaar, Larkey, Stevenson, those 3 forwards have just not been up to it so far this year. I think out of all 3, Stevenson's probably been the worst out of the 3. He's been, I guess you could say, racking it up here and there with a few possessions, but yeah, just not being able to hit the scoreboard. And for me, Stevenson is a player that's underachieving. Moving on to my 8th play in today's video, I've included 𝐼𝐗𝐿𝐼𝐻 from Port Adelaide. It's a harsh one to put in because we have to remember, though, he was brilliant last year. All-Australian player, was just insane down back for Port Adelaide. Just those intercept marks, taking them left, right and centre, using the ball as well. And that's a really good thing to see because when he was at the Swansea League, he was just not a very good ball user, but he's just become much more safer back there. And yeah, 2021 was truly a great year, but so far 2022, he's just been average, really. I don't think he's been the player that Port fans have expected him to be, taking a number of intercept marks. But yeah, he's just been, he hasn't been bad, he's just been okay. But I think there's far more key defenders who are a lot better than 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻, and I don't think he probably is a top 10 key back at the moment. That's how much he's fallen off the cliff. So I think you've got to set those high expectations. He's an all-Australian caliber player. He should be around that top 7, top 8 kind of key back range, but I think, yeah, you know, maybe McCartan, Collins, Stephen May, as you could possibly put in Tom Stewart as well. Just those kind of players have been far better than 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻, and yeah, he's another player who's been underachieving this year. Next up in today's video, I've got Robbie Tarrant from the Tigers. Tigers had a pretty good deal here. They were going to bring in an experienced key back, and I personally thought this was a great idea. It was sort of like a Damien Hardwick. He knows what he's doing here. Bring in an experienced defender, Robbie Tarrant, a best and fairest winner over there at North Melbourne, and just a veteran, 33 years old, and you think he's going to fill in the gaps for a season or two for Richmond. But so far this year, he's just not been good. It's simple as that. They've had a few issues down back. Tigers, Dylan Grimes has been injured, Broad's been running through, and Tarrant just kept his spot in the lineup for pretty much every game, and again, just been, quite poor, I guess you could say. He's had multiple goals kicked on him with ball in hand as well. He's been turning it over quite a number of times as well. And even though it is a bit harsh to include him, he is 33 years old. I just thought he'd be at least somewhat a bit better of a player. You'd probably say he'd be good enough if he was showing, average kind of a performance, but for me, he's just been very below average, and it's just been a bit disappointing to see him not succeed over there at the Tigers so far this year. So for me, Tarrant is a player who's just been underachieving and not meeting his expectations. And for my last player in today's video, I've got Tom Mitchell from Hawthorn. We all know a Brownlow medalist, and the other thing we all know is he is a junk possession king, where he's done it so many times throughout his career, just racks up a lot of disposals, but just isn't very efficient with his ball use, or very damaging, I should say, including that. Doesn't really have many meters gained either. But nevertheless, just because a player picks up a lot of junk possessions doesn't mean that they are a bad player. It is still a useful player to have in his side, and I think last year was a good season from him, but so far this year, he's just been struggling to find the football a little bit more, and he's just been, I feel, a lot less damaging with it. I think so far this year, bar Newcombe, the Hawks midfield's just been disappointing, including Tom Mitchell. 𝐻𝐴𝐻𝐵L's just been really under the weather as well, struggling to find the football. But I think Mitchell's a big one because he's the high-paid player, should be one of the best players in this side because of his reputation. But he's just been, struggling to find the footy, as per usual, just not been very good at executing and also damaging with the ball. So for me, Mitchell is a player who is just really underachieving so far this season. So everybody, there was my list of 10 AFL players who have been underachieving so far in the 2022 AFL season. Of course, there are far more players that I could have included in today's video, but I just wanted to make a list of 10 of the 10 who I think has just been the most underachieving. You could also include Carl Amon, Dangerfield. There were other players who I think you're including. So make sure to comment down below and tell me who you would have included if you were to make this video. So anyways, fellas, thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you went on to enjoy today's video. And that's it from me, fellas. I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.